Hello everyone, this is Anna from Savicat Realty, and today I'm here to talk to you the state of calamity and the storms in Portugal. So for those of you who don't know, Savicat Realty is a relocation and investment agency that helps expats move to Portugal in a sustainable way. Our goal is to help people find the right place and the right property for their own lifestyle needs and budget in the whole of continental Portugal. We are a team of locals, and one of our goals is to provide all of the information and verification so our clients can make informed and good purchases that don't inflate the local market. If this makes sense to you, do check out our services in our website in www.savicatrealty.com, where everything is listed very transparently. We work with both rentals and purchases, and everything can be found there. So today's topic is a bit of a sad one. As probably most of you know, there have been some huge storms in Portugal, and it has been declared the state of calamity. So today's video is to explain what's going on, why is this happening, is this likely to happen again, how Portugal is dealing with it, and how has the impact been for us locals. So the first thing that I would like you to understand is that this winter has been very unusual when it comes to the amount of rain. According to the meteorological agency's readings, this year you have over double the amount of precipitation that you have had in average in the past 20 years. So if we look at data from 1991 until 2020, the average winter precipitation is 105 millimeters, while this year we're having 233.4 national average on precipitation. So this is more than double. And though of course there have been regions that have been affected more than others. And this is also a curious event in the sense that there has actually been a trend towards drought, especially in the south of Portugal, that was completely inverted this year. This year, all of the barrages, the reservoirs, the reserves, everything became full and overbearing. And that was kind of the problem, because there was so much rain that the dams, the reservoirs, they couldn't keep all of this rain, so releases have to be made. And the two areas, the central Portugal was the most affected, with a particular focus on the northern region of Alentejo Litoral, like Santiago de Cacém, where we had a flood that reached 4.3 meters in Santiago de Cacém. The water level reached 4.3 meters, which is almost unprecedented. It had happened in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, so this is not at all an unusual event. And the other region that was very affected was Coimbra. However, in Coimbra, it is a lot more frequent for this kind of events to happen. To give you an overview, Coimbra does have kind of cyclical floods, and it's usually not this bad. For the first time, a dike had ruptured. It's actually the second time a dike has ruptured, but this one was quite severe, to a point that was a landslide in the major highway A1, which had never happened before. So going back into the cyclical nature of the Coimbra floods, we have registries here of 1872, 1949, 2001, 2016, and now 2026, also 2019. So in these cases, the water levels also got quite high. This time, because of the dike rupture, there was an evacuation alert, and more than 3,000 people were evacuated for the Coimbra regions. Thankfully, the dike that ruptured mostly affected rural and agricultural regions, so it didn't have as much impact on residential areas, although the evacuation did happen. And of course, it was still problematic. It was the worst in the agricultural parts. However, Santiago de Cacém was pretty much submerged in water, which I never seen that in my lifetime. The last time something like that happened was much before I was born, so it was in the 1960s. So as you can see, this is not exactly an usual event. So what can I tell you about what is happening and whether or not this can happen again? So first of all, from a timeline perspective, most of the issues started in the late January, at about the 28th of January, when the big floods and the storms started to happen. And it's also important to note that the dams and the soil was already very saturated because it has been a very heavy rain winter. So we already had very saturated water levels, and on top of that we had these huge storms with an amount of water, unprecedented amount of water, and so the structures weren't able to deal with it. So unfortunately, we also had about 13 deaths and over 100 incidents. A lot of people had issues with their houses, with roofs falling over, chimneys falling over, trees falling over. A lot of areas were quite devastated due to the rain and heavy winds. This once again was focused mostly on the central region. So Coimbra, Caldas da Rainha, Santarém, Abrantes, then Santiago de Cacém, Sines. Alentejo also have quite a bit of floods, and although the northern area wasn't as affected when it comes to the intensity of the storms, it still experienced a much higher than usual amount of rain. And in the north it is usual to rain, just not as much. So what can we do? What can we say regarding the likelihood of an event like this happening again? So, obviously, this is linked to climate change, and the truth is, the warmer it gets, the more water, more humidity the atmosphere is able to hold. So for each Celsius degree, the air holds more 70% of moisture. And because of the northern Atlantic temperatures elevating, since Portugal is the start of the Atlantic, at the most of our coast is the Atlantic coast, the temperature increase in these areas is affecting the Peninsula Iberia in general. And it is likely that there are going to be more intense storms in the future, but we don't know how frequent they are going to be. This is, of course, a lot of guesswork. And once again, this is all tied to the climate change, into the increase in temperature that is changing the currents and the wind corridors in the Atlantic. And it is likely that Portugal will experience heavier storms, but we don't know how often they will happen. I still believe that this year is an exception, and it's not likely that we will have years like that frequently. I do hope we will become better prepared, because that's a bit of the problem here in Portugal, is that honestly, we are underprepared for this kind of situation because we rarely have it. Like I said, the last time we had something like this, okay, some of the floods in Coimbra, but they were honestly minor in comparison. We hadn't had something like this in almost 100 years, if it's so. So our country is not prepared for extreme climate events because we didn't have them before. And the vast majority of properties, private properties, are uninsured. Most of the insurances, the regular insurances that you have, like life insurance and so on, they do not cover for natural events. And you generally have to have a separate policy in order to have the natural disasters coverage. And I would say probably 90% of the Portuguese people don't have this coverage. So this is very problematic to deal with. And with the new president and the elections, this definitely was addressed in the political speeches. The president showed concerned towards getting help and getting manpower and financial resources to the people with the least bureaucracy possible. I hope that is the case, and I hope that actual measures are taken. But historically speaking, Portugal is not known to be a bureaucratically and overall efficient country. The last big disaster we had was the fires a few years back that killed 60 people. And it took probably 2-3 years for people to see the compensation from that. I don't know if that's going to happen in this case. I do hope that the system learned and improved. And I do hope that this acts as an eye-opener for the government to have better measurements to deal with these intense storms and crisis situations. I'd also like to note that our interior minister actually resigned, saying that she wasn't able to handle the situation properly. So this also goes back to what I've been saying so far, which is Portugal has been underprepared, and it is very much a policy issue too. Once again, I do hope this doesn't become a frequent situation. There was a series of events that led to these storms becoming so intense and so problematic. And given the fact that, once again, the amount of rain was more than double the average of the last 20 years, I do believe this is an exception and not the rule. Although it is likely that we will have more intense storms, I do not believe it will be on the scale of this one. So I do think things are quieting down now. Things are getting a lot better. We're starting to get sunny days again. People are starting to rebuild. I think Portugal will deal with this the best they can. We will see how good that best is. So yes, the most affected areas were Mondego, the Coimbra River, then the agricultural zones, and Santiago de Cacém and the higher Alentejo area. Officially, the northern interior, the Algarve and the mountain north were the least affected. Although in the north in general, once again, the amount of rain was severely higher than usual. And once again, same thing applies to the Algarve. Well, we generally have 300 sunny days of 300 sunny days per year. This time you had a proper winter, even in the Algarve, which ended up being kind of positive because it finally filled up the water reserves that were reaching a critical level. So once again, I do hope things stabilized. So this is the overview I have for you of the storm situation in Portugal. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you were not very drastically affected. I would love to hear your stories and your experiences of those who were here in Portugal during this time. And let's all rebuild and get hoping to a better spring that is coming. I hope you have a great day. Once again, if you have need of our services, we work in all of continental Portugal, and you can find us in www.savicatrealty.com. And we're here, of course, every week with updates and information on Portugal, residing in Portugal, Portuguese policies, and anything you may need to know in case you are coming here. So I hope you have a great day and I see you all next week. Bye!